You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt Migaki, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Kelly Schaefer of Atheist. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers!
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I hope it is splendid wherever you are. Hopefully you're not still stuck in the polar vortex, because that sounded awful. My fragile Oregonian bones couldn't begin to deal with that level of cold, I don't think. I'm not sure, though. We do get pretty cold around here, I guess. I don't think we got any negative 40 or whatever nonsense was going on there, though. But what we do have is Gun Street Wiring Shop. Oh, I know. See, I kind of I jigged there. Thought I was gonna zag, and I zigged. Or jigged. What did I say? I don't know. But what I do know is Gun Street Wiring Shop is awesome, and they are making awesome stuff out of Bend, Oregon. They can make the custom wiring harness of your dreams. If you've ever dreamed of squeezing a little bit of more functionality out of your current guitars, they are the one to hit up. They may be able to offer you some options you never really thought possible, but, if you just have some scratchy pots or you got something a little jankety going on, now's the time to upgrade. They can fix you up. If you go to gunstreetwiringshop.com, they can fix all of that for you and maybe unlock some new sounds in the process. We also need to talk about Sinusoid. Oh yes, long-time sponsor Sinusoid, and they are doing just as amazing as ever. If you go to their site, you can see the standard options, the things that are most popular, most sought after, so to speak. But maybe you need something else, or maybe you just crave something else. You can build it in their custom cable builder. You can make exactly what you want out of the cable material that you want, with or without I can never say that word right. TechFlex. Anyway, yes, with or without that stuff. And you also get their fabled 100-year warranty. So if anything goes bad in the next 100 years, Sinusoid will be there to back up their work, to make everything painless and awesome and easy. So go to sinusoid.com and check them out. And one last thing before we get right into the episode, and I want to remind you about tonemob.com/reverb. That's a link that you go to. If you go to tonemob.com/reverb, you can do all your normal reverb.com shopping. So you're buying pedals, you're selling pedals, you're doing whatever kind of transactions you normally do on Reverb. And a little bit of that sale goes back to help support the show and keep things running around here. It doesn't cost you anything extra, no weird things like that. All you got to do is do your Reverb shopping through tonemob.com/reverb. And if you're a vinyl junkie, that also works for Reverb LP, which is their vinyl service that they have. So if you're looking to, pick up some vintage vinyls or some out-of-print stuff or even some fresh stuff, you can do that, and that also comes back and helps support. Yeah, there I go again with my words. Support the show and keep everything humming around here, and it doesn't cost you anything extra. So if you go ahead and do that, tonemob.com/reverb, it would be much appreciated. And finally, I bring you to our intro. Our guest for this episode is a self-described alt-country troubadour named Boo Ray. You guys know how I feel about country music and how much it means to me and all that stuff. And I think he's really doing some cool stuff. Also, he is a gear nerd and is friends with lots of gear nerds in Nashville. So, check out his album, but check out this interview first. I think you'll like him. He's a great guy to talk to and has a very interesting story and some interesting setups that he runs gear-wise. So we'll get into all that, and I will stop talking. Well, I'm not going to, you know what I mean. Here goes the show with Boo Ray. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the ToneMob.com podcast, the show about guitar tone and the people behind it. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have Boo Ray. What's happening, man?
Good, man. How about it, Blake?
Oh man, I've got good vibes on this one. You know, we've been talking for
Me
a little
too.
bit, and I feel like this is gonna go really well. Sometimes you just have that through the internet. You get the you can still pick up the vibes. Sometimes I feel like this is gonna be a good one.
Totally. I feel like we got it warmed up with a couple cans and a piece of string pulled tight.
That's right. That's right. I'm keeping it
Yeah.
as tight as I can, but it's a long ways. It's a long ways that we're having to
Right.
communicate.
10-4, yeah.
So maybe a good place to go would be just to start with my classic question, which would be, you know, tell people who you are and what your musical backstory is and how it led you to where you are today.
Sure. I'm Boo Ray, and I'm a full-time troubadour. I keep a 5-piece band, and we run around and play shows and make straight to tape, make live to tape recordings to be pressed on vinyl, to be listened to on vinyl records.
I love it. I love it. I'm a quite a vinyl junkie myself.
Cool. Yeah.
Is that
Wonderful.
kind of your MO? Like you try to do everything how they did it back in the day, you know, just all live, all straight to tape?
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. I've lucked out and fell in with it. I've fallen in with a crew of of really super high quality cats that are just analog guys, and I followed their. Yeah, you know how it is. You go down a rabbit hole and you don't know quite what you're getting into when you first start off. And I've followed some good. I've run across some. I've been lucky. Run across some great talent, and I've taken some good advice along the way. You know.
That's very cool. I wish I had the talent to do that. When the one time we recorded an album, I think I did about I think the tally was 400 million takes on things, just because
Right.
I'm not that good. But I feel like there's kind of a magic in recording a live band. Is that something that you've kind of experienced?
Positively, there's no doubt about it, and I'm sure you know about the phenomena of you surround yourself with a bunch of heavy duty cats, and you literally play beyond your ability. You know it's sort of the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. You know.
Totally.
Yeah.
So where did it all start for you though? You didn't just kind of wake up and start recording you're recording the way you do and playing the way you
No.
do. What was
No.
your initial
Oh,
musical
I,
experiences?
Sure. I mean, I had a couple cousins when I was a kid that had really cool record collections. My cousin Freddie was a Nam vet, and he had a really cool record collection. That was when I was really young, uh, pre 10 years old. And he had the first song and record that I latched onto was the Stones. And I don't know how the hell I was, I was 7 years old maybe. And I latched on to Get Off My Cloud.
Okay.
And I would pester adults. This was before I was old enough and my dexterity. I couldn't handle and operate the record player. And so I would have to pester the adults to play. And I just wanted to hear one song over and over and over and over.
And then when did you pick up the guitar?
I was offered the guitar by a Appalachian folk singer, flat picker, mountain music maker. I was offered guitar lessons, and the first guitar that they put in my lap at like 12 years old was I'm sure it was a wonderful Martin, and it had medium gauge strings on it, and I put my hands on that neck and felt those strings, and I was like, ooh, that's just way too difficult. It's not for me. And I didn't really come back to the guitar until I had grown some and my dexterity had improved at about 15 years old.
And was it still on that same Martin, or what were you playing at 15?
No, at 15, I came across a Strat. I came across a Strat with tens on it, and I also simultaneously fallen into uh, Dire Straits and Steve Ray Vaughan and the Allman Brothers live at the Fillmore record, sort of all simultaneously, and also the Skinner "Give Me Back My Bullets" record.
That is quite a magical combination of things to spur one down the guitar playing path, for sure.
Yeah. As it turns out, I've done most of my learning has come as discovery along the way. Happenstance, trial and error.
Gotcha. So did you have anybody showing you the ropes, or did you teach yourself?
There was a couple of blues cats that so I grew up in the mountains of Western North Carolina, and everybody up there is, at least all the real heavy duty cats they're all flat pickers, and at that age, for me, I didn't see the damn charm in it. I was like, man, that's just a bunch of grumpy, mean old men. And so I basically kind of ran away from that part of my youth and roots, and I went. I knew a guy who was he's a furniture builder, and he's a bluesman, and he was way into Billy Gibbons and Carlos Santana and Mesa Boogies, and I kind of followed and copied him for a few years early on.
Interesting. Very
Yeah,
interesting.
his name is John Warren. He's a super fine picker, and as I saw him age through my teens and 20s, he got into ragtime thumb style picking. And I saw him evolve as a player and get into different stuff. So I sort of saw for my own self, like, well, there's no telling where this is going to go.
Right. Where you start is definitely not necessarily where you end up. That's for sure. Or where you think you're going even might change.
Absolutely. And so it really, to tell you the truth, Blake, it wasn't until I got out to Los Angeles in like 2005 and I got homesick for sweet tea and grits, and I started having affection for my folky Southern roots, for my hillbilly stuff and those songs just started coming out of me.
So did you go out to Los Angeles with more of a like rock and roll thing in mind then?
Well, I don't know what I had in mind. I had just come off of a fairly successful record that was kind of a southern hip hop rock record.
Interesting.
And the reason I made that record was just because that's who the players that I was working with and around at the time. So when I went out to California, I had that record under my belt, and when I really went out to California the first time to live, I went out there to get sober the first time. So that's a whole different story. Once I was out there, though, by luck and circumstance, I fell in with the Americana roots players out there. I lucked into meeting Steve Ferrone early on out there. And I gave him a copy of that darn rap rock record. And like a month later, I ran into him and he said, "Hey, Boo, by the way, cool record, man." He says, "Why don't you come hang out at my studio some?" Oftentimes at the end of sessions, we track with songwriters and singers and singer-songwriters with whatever band is assembled for the session. So just come start hanging out with us, and I did.
Nice. Well, you may not know this about me because we haven't talked that much, but I have a very strong love and appreciation for Americana and country music and what people have kind of dubbed alt country, which is what you yourself have a label of alt country on a lot of the stuff I was reading. I have a very strong opinion on all this, and I wonder how much you want to talk about it. But I
Ah,
find it
I,
very
yeah,
odd that
yeah,
in my opinion,
sure.
in order to make real country music, and feel very pretentious saying that, but in order to make what I consider to be kind of genuine country and Americana music, you have to slap a different label on it other than just country. And I find that
Right.
very, very strange.
It's weird, right?
I
Yeah,
mean, what do you think of
sure.
that? I mean, I'm not sure where I'm going
Uh,
with that question, but it's
no,
kind
no,
of
I dig it. Maybe I have a useful, productive way to jump in with you. So here's possibly one thing, one useful perspective. I don't know about you, but it was a realization for me when I growing up based on the classic country radio station that we got in Western North Carolina, and based on the music that my dad listened to, and what I thought was quote unquote country music, right? The pillar and foundation of it. So I thought the pillars and foundation of music of country music, which I totally identified with Nashville. It meant Nashville to me, with the red, white, and blue stripes and the fireworks and the pistol shooting and the price tags hanging off the hats and all that stuff, right?
right, right, right.
And so I thought what that encompassed was Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, Hank Jr., Hank Sr., uh, Merle Haggard, George Jones, Waylon Jennings. I thought that was Nashville country music. And then I come to find out, years after I had formed this opinion, come to find out that the actual records and the songs and the singer songwriters that I identified as Nashville country music, these specific records that I was talking about, were all the records that they made in rebellion against Nashville, and
Mm-hmm.
basically went to damn Muscle Shoals. Pardon me. I say I cuss a little bit. I'm for the I'm 95% FCC safe. Um, but I consider those records. They all went to Muscle Shoals and Austin to make those records, or they made them in Nashville with freaky producers like Cowboy Jack Clement, who were anti-establishment. So the records that I consider to be quote unquote Nashville Foundation country records were all sort of anti Nashville rebellion records that
Right.
were kind of Texas country. I mean, for lack of a better way to say it. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean all the guys you listed there, those are all what I kind of identify as being kind of the legit ones myself, and I don't know. Like I said, I feel very hipster and pretentious in kind of saying that, but it's really hard for me to get down with something like Florida Georgia Line and calling that
Uh,
country. It just doesn't
uh,
make any sense to me.
it's well, and here's what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying, Blake, is if we go back and look at the playlists and the charts of what was happening when those records that we discussed just a moment ago from Jerry Reed and Eddie Rabbit and Don Williams, and the rest of that crowd, right?
Hmm.
If you and I go look at the stuff that was at the top of the charts at those time, it would reflect an equally different style of music. Well, no, I don't know, not quite equally, but it would reflect a different style of music than what we consider. If you and I are considering Redheaded Stranger a foundation sound, and then we go listen to what was topping the charts at the same time as Redheaded Stranger, we're gonna find that it was some square stuff in comparison.
I think you're right. That is a really really good perspective, I think. So your kind of mindset is the stuff that you and I would really appreciate has always been anti
Correct.
whatever the radio
Correct.
is.
Correct.
That's a good point.
Yes. Yes. I think so. I think so.
That's
Um,
a really really interesting point, and I never really thought of it that way. But that is accurate. I mean, especially with like Waylon, like he was definitely anti everything Nashville, basically. Um, and he's one of my all time favorites, Waylon Jennings. I
right.
was
And
born and
Willie was
raised or
too.
raised
Yeah,
on
no,
him.
agreed. And what I'm saying is, they all took their so Waylon and Sturgill raised hell, which I like it. I love a rabble rouser. You know what I mean? But they're outspoken. Willie, he just wandered off. He's like, yeah, you all can have that stuff, man. I'm gonna go write songs, and he just went and got busy. He didn't have
That's
too
true.
much to say. He just that was his statement.
That is kind of interesting that you brought up Sturgill. Sturgill is a crazy one in my experience. So I watched Sturgill Simpson for the first time here in Portland, opening for Lucero at a
Ah,
Portland chili cook-off.
uh-huh.
And now I look at like where he's gone from there, and it's like, I mean, don't get me wrong, that is one of the greatest shows I've and concert experiences I've ever had. The chili was amazing, the bands were amazing, but it's
Awesome.
just I was like, look, who's this new guy Sturgill? At the time, and just
Yeah,
to see where he's gone from there, and I feel like people are. Do you feel like people are hungry for that kind of sound and like that kind of
absolutely.
genuine? Yeah, like
Absolutely.
almost as
That's
a
why
backlash. Like the people are rebelling in some ways by listening to you guys.
absolutely, man. You throw something real out there and give it some real attention where it can actually get exposed to enough people that it could gain some momentum and gravity to it. I mean, there's no way around the fact that we are still basically battling the corporate world as indie music. I mean, look, man, I'm not. There's no love lost, and I ain't trying to land any of my material or my records on any kind of mainstream format whatsoever. It just so happens to be that what I am I, and essentially, I'm still doing the same thing I've done my whole life, but it just happens to be kind of in style right now.
Oh, you think is that the case? Is it just that people are so tired of what's been shoved down their throat that they're like, oh wait, here's some real stuff over here? Is that what it
Dude, I,
is?
I absolutely. I think if you throw something real out there, they will devour it. Here's my analogy on that one, Blake. You know how you know the whole phenomenon with carbohydrate addiction and fast food, and you people, and I've experienced it a couple times in my life. You eat these carbohydrates in the form of fast food, and you literally can't get enough of them, and you're hungry 10 minutes after you eat because they don't have any damn nutrients in it. I
Right.
think the same thing exists in the form of spiritual, emotional content in music. That's why these singles, what the new pop singles, and pop, by pop I mean anything mainstream. Uh, they last, what do they last? 6, 8, 10 weeks, and then there's a new one, and there's just music is that kind of music is damn near disposable. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so when people hear a sound that's an actual songwriter that's got their fingers on strings, and they're beating out melodies and doing it that way. Yes, I think there's a population of people who will devour that stuff if they can find it.
Yeah, that's a big one, and I find like people of my generation don't typically have too difficult of a time finding what they want, because we kind of grew up alongside the internet, so
Sure,
we know how to search for stuff. But
sure,
I kind of have to introduce it to my dad. Like my
sure.
dad, he can't listen. He loves music like this, and he cannot stand listening to the radio anymore.
Right,
And so I have to be
right.
like, well, here is this guy, and here is this guy, and I almost feel like an odd responsibility. I'm like, he's like, country music isn't any good anymore, and I'm like, yeah, it is. You just have to know where to look, type of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
agreed, agreed.
I wish it wasn't that way, but then, like you said, and it's kind of a revelation to me. I guess it's always sort of been that
It's
way. Just
that's the thing, right? It's just there's always been this machine. And look, man, I'm not saying every single thing that the machine ever touches is horrible, because
no,
there's clearly I mean, hey man, I love a screaming summertime hit. I mean, I love a damn hit. I love them. That Brad Paisley, Alison Krauss song years ago was
oh man, that's such a good song.
um, uh, the Kings of Leon had a great summertime hit, "Use Me," a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, who's the R&B girl that had that song "Work Work Work" recently? Is that
Rihanna.
yeah? Hell yeah, that was a fantastic hit. I thought.
You're right. It's not all bad, and it's not. I'm not saying that at
Yeah.
all.
No, I'm not taking you that way. I'm just jumping in with you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
Yeah.
a good a good example though, which I find interesting of somebody who it seems really real and puts out stuff that I really enjoy. That's also huge is Chris Stapleton, and
Sure.
almost wonder sometimes like, wait a minute, there's more guys like him. How come the machine decided that he was okay, or did he just grind so hard for so long that he finally just rose to the top? Like, what's the deal there?
Yeah, no, it's all of that stuff, man. I mean, it's all of that stuff. I think, Blake, as I see this stuff go. Well, Chris Stapleton's a little different than the whole rest of the crowd, because he was. I mean, he's an established hit songwriter for years before he became a successful solo artist.
That's
Uh,
true. That's very true.
I mean, he's a little different than the rest of us in that way. Uh, and I think that's probably reflected in the style of his songs too. Like on his records, he's writing songs that make me jealous as a dang songwriter, and I'm like, hell, I wish I wrote "Fire Away." You know, uh,
Yeah.
in a, I guess here's what I'm saying: within our own current crowd, I think there's a couple things. I think the degree of difficulty of writing truly original, authentic, real stuff that's not just copping on something, or that's not just a theme and variation take on something. It's really, really hard to do, because essentially, after I don't know what year, basically '90s rock. After '90s rock, basically all the big hooks, everything, every word combination that you could put together as a humanoid, all the big, obvious, good hooks and phrases and colloquialisms, they kind of got used up through the '90s, like it's all done and been said. So now, in order to do something truly original and be real and have it still be catchy and whatever you quote unquote cuttable by another artist,
Mm-hmm.
say in the spirit of Alan Toussaint, who's the silver haired piano player that was such a beautiful songwriter that died last year. You know who I'm talking about. Leon Russell. Leon Russell.
Yes, yes, yes.
So in that kind of a spirit, where you got a songwriter that's literally like, he might be writing some of his own songs, but in the back of his head, he's saying, "All right, for every one of my songs of something that I got to say personal, I kind of got this other idea. I think somebody else ought to say this," And they throw a song on their record that they had intended from the get go. Like, hell, I want somebody else to cut this song.
That's an interesting take. I totally forget about that stuff because I'm not a very prolific songwriter by any stretch of the imagination, but I've done a little bit of it here and there. And I
Sure.
never ever really thought about the kind of different mindset it would take to not write something for yourself. That's got to be a whole, like, almost a whole different skill set.
I don't know. When I first came across the Americana thing, the way that happened in 2010, when I landed back in Athens, Georgia, and I was in a halfway house, and I was operating on the halfway house telephone and computer because I didn't have a cell phone. And And I ended up scrapping together 10 tracks from recorded in different studios and various different stages of completion and non-completion. I threw together 10 mismatched tracks, finished them in Atlanta with a hip hop producer. And basically, most of the record was, it's mandolin and resonators and acoustic guitars. It's Bad News Travels Fast record is what it was. And I sent out 130 of those CDs, Blake, and I got a few responses back, and a couple of the responses back ended up being from the right people, and I was able to learn a little bit. So I got turned on to the Americana Music Association and the Americana radio world. And at that time in 2010, when I first learned of that, there were still people in that chart that were full-time Nashville songwriters, like Mike Deacle, for instance, like Byron Hill, for instance, like real deal, big time Nashville songwriters with #1 cuts, and like Jim Lauderdale. He's a great example. Jim Lauderdale, King of Broken Hearts, he's been making Americana records for many years. I don't even know. I wouldn't even venture a guess. It's over 20, 30. He might be going on 30 years. And it's a specific thing of what Americana, quote unquote Americana, is it's a songwriter record. So you got a songwriter, and he's making a personal statement, but you betcha he's going to load the deck with a couple of lottery ticket type songs that he thinks would be good, hits for some big star to cut.
That's fascinating. That is just a whole different kind of thought process than anything I've ever experienced myself. That makes a lot of sense, though. I understand why they would do that, and it's just not ever a concept that came into my brain, type of thing.
Willie Nelson totally made those records. I mean, he definitely is another one that did that,
For sure. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just it's a different kind of thought process, I suppose.
Sure. Yeah, no, for sure. I somehow or another that ended up being the model that I was like, ooh, I get it. There it is. I recognize it. They're making a personal statement, but they're hedging their bet with a couple of really super high quality songs that they are trying to land in the pool of songs with John Hyatt, Leon Russell, Alan Toussaint, Bill Withers, Don Williams, Eddie Rabbitt, that are like part of the classic American songbook.
Yeah,
that's
for
what I'm
sure.
saying.
For sure.
Yeah.
It sounds like, I don't know how much you want to get into this, but and you can stop me if it sounds like you had quite an interesting period before 2010 that seems like it might have been somewhat formative for you in a way that maybe you didn't want it to be or expect it to be.
Yeah.
You want to talk about those years at all?
Sure. I've got some friends. I've heard this before. This wasn't my original idea, but the line is, yes, sobriety is the greatest gift I never wanted. Yeah, that's what ended up happening. Yeah, man, drugs and alcohol completely overtook my life, and I had to get sober. I just couldn't stay out of trouble, and my metabolism changed, man. I no longer metabolized alcohol like a normal person. So anyways, I went through the whole process and ended up getting sober. I've been sober since 2009. I went through all that stuff, Blake. I've delivered room clearing, career ending performances. I've been arrested more times than I can count. There was a couple of years there I just couldn't stay out of jail. Yeah.
Well, you've done a good job. I mean, that's a long time coming back from a really dark place. Do you have any advice for somebody who might be going through something similar or seeing somebody go through something similar? of what
Sure.
they can do for themselves or somebody else?
Sure. Yeah. I'll share with you guys the experience before I went to California. I had in the back of my mind that somehow there was some kind of rock and roll level of lifestyle that if you get, if you know that either it's the right record deal or the right amount of success or the right couple of hit songs and or movie placements or some kind of damn hustle that would basically facilitate a way to successfully live and consume the drugs and alcohol at the same time and be productive and creative and prolific. I got out to California and here's what I found. Like it blew my mind. So once I got out to Los Angeles, first of all, um, once I got out there, I started getting to know people. And then as I got to know successful, really high quality musicians and songwriters and players, as I got to started getting to know them, it turns out that a whole bunch of them end up getting sober out of a whole bunch of them. And now I'm seeing it. Now I'm seeing it occur in real time in front of my eyes in my own life. Is in our industry over a period of time, the people that we all run with and drink and stay out at the honky tonks and the nightclubs and party with over a period of time, basically people either outgrow that or they get sober. If at least the ones that have real productive creative careers. That's what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
Like, like the guys who there are a few, and Keith Richards, by God, does exist. Man, I know a couple of those guys, and they mystify me. I'm like, how
They're kind of anomalies, though, right?
Exactly.
That's not how normal. Like that is some other sort of
Yeah.
physical, literally a physical difference he has to be able to consume at that level and also
absolutely
play.
Absolutely, they're like he's like the Carl Lewis of rock and roll, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Yeah,
that's pretty accurate. Like it's just yeah, actually, it's a really good way to put it. It's like there was only like one Mike Tyson. You know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Like, there's only one Babe Ruth. Like that's kind of what Keith Richards is.
Yes, he's agreed. So anyways, what I found when I got out to California, Blake, was that or a really big pile of the really cool players, singers, songwriters, and players that I wanted to be like, I mean, the numbers were staggering. Like most of the guys that I really wanted to be like were sober. And so the delusion that rock and roll had to happen in an inebriated environment was basically, that delusion was smashed when I got out there and I realized the reality of it. Like, oh, that ain't the way it's going down.
Interesting. So for you, it was almost like a pragmatic thing. It's like, if I want to be that, I cannot be this, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I bought into the nonsense too. I believed a bunch of the stories, and then when I when I got out to California, I realized a lot of the stories are over dramatized, and there's gossip and rumor and myth, and some of that stuff does go down, but like you said, Keith Richards is an anomaly. You can't shoot for that and hit it,
Right. You got to have realistic expectations at some level, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So yeah, there's no way around it. Like, consistent hard work and creativity and productivity can't be beat. Like that wins, turtle wins the race,
Mm-hmm. Well, that's interesting. Thank you for getting into that. I mean, that can be tough for some people to talk about, especially considering that it's a tough thing to deal with. So thanks for kind of
Yeah,
peeling back
man.
the curtain a little bit.
I appreciate you rapping about it. No, it's absolutely. I'm writing all this dark material and real stuff. And I'm not doing it in an inebriated state. I mean, I still stay up till 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. I still see the sun come up every once in a while at the end of a songwriting, at the end of a marathon songwriting session. That still
Mm-hmm.
happens. I'm just simply, I'm not inebriated, and so I'm able to take notes and pick up the phone and answer the call when the important call comes through. I'm basically there.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, this is supposedly a gear podcast, or so I'm told. I mean,
so
I think that's what it is.
We
but
haven't even talked about it at all. It's
I know
wonderful.
this is
good.
This is just the way this thing goes a lot, oftentimes, and people love it.
I'm a fan, man. I'm a total fan.
Let's talk about your setup. I know you were talking about it before we recorded, but let's get into it. What's your main go-to rig look like from guitar to amp?
Sure.
Everything in
Okay.
between.
Sure. We'll start with the guitars. Okay. So the only guitar that I've had for a long time, I've had it since early stages. I don't know, since late '90s. I've had this old Gibson flat top the whole time. I don't play it on the stage anymore, basically because of the logistics of you have more control over electric guitars you have more personal control over electric guitars on stage.
Mm-hmm.
If you play acoustic instruments, you're basically at the mercy of the sound engineer. And so I quit playing acoustic guitars live. I did one of the biggest breakthroughs I've had in the past few years is Richie Owens. Is a he worked at Showbud, and he worked at Showbud, and he's got a line of signature guitars with Washburn, and he and Richie and Washburn gave me the Richie Owens signature model resonator that can be plugged in directly to your electric guitar line, and no adjustments need to be made. Because I was able to plug a resonator directly into my signal chain and not have to have a special rig. It responded just like a Les Paul or a Telecaster.
That's really cool. I'm pulling it up right now to take a look at it. I did not realize that was how that was done. Is that what you're playing most of the time?
Cadillac. Oh, I play it about a third of the time.
Okay.
And so that's sort of my acoustic guitar. That's my version of acoustic guitar for my live stuff. Is that resonator?
Oh wow, that thing
and I
looks
use
awesome.
It with, man, it's a Cadillac, Blake. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's really fantastic. And those EMG pickups, they are those are electric guitar pickups. So you cannot put phosphor bronze strings on that resonator, or it will interfere with the magnetic response. You got to put steel strings. You got to put wound steel.
Very interesting. That thing looks great. I'm gonna have to check one of those out sometime. That's really cool.
It's very cool. Yeah, it's very cool. I recommend it. And then my electric guitar, as I said, that the only thing I've had for a long time is that old flat top Gibson. So I'm bad to trade electrics, and I've had a couple of really cool electrics over the years, and I've just always foolishly traded them away. I do have an electric that I really, really like right now. I mean, I've had this guitar now. I'm going on 4 years with this guitar. It's a Fender thin line body that I I stripped all the urethane off of it, and then I got a Warmoth neck, and I assembled this whole guitar just from pieces. So it's a Fender thin line body with an F hole. It's a hip shot bridge. It's got Spretzel tuners on it. Spretzel tuners on the Warmoth neck, and it's like that Warmoth neck's like a baked. It's like a baked neck or something
Baked
like
maple
that.
or something. Yeah.
And baked maple, exactly. And then Spretzel tuners and this company called Lust for Tone did a sort of a hand wound scooped mid range humbucker for me, so it almost sounds like a darn Filtron.
Oh, interesting.
It's real scooped, very scooped, almost sounds like if you set a wah in a little bit of you pulled a wah back off of horizontal, you know.
Very interesting.
It's almost like that. Yeah, it plays cool. So I'm basically I do play some leads in our set, and I do I hold up my half of all the twin guitar lead work that we do in the band, and we play a lot of twin guitar stuff now. But I basically hold that. I consider myself the rhythm guitar player of the band. I consider myself a guitar wrangler. JJ Cale, I'm not saying I'm as good or as cool as JJ Cale, but I think my method of operation is kind of similar to him.
Okay.
Like I would not necessarily be a good lead guitar player in every band, but there's a couple things that I can do that I might fit pretty good. You know? If you're coming to me as a guitar player, I kind of got my thing that I have to offer, sort of like JJ Cale. You know, you're going to get JJ. You're not going to get Ed Brown or Hank Garland at a JJ Cale. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, he's got his own thing that he does.
So I'm kind of that way. You know, I'm kind of like a Merle. I like a Hag type of guitar wrangler, if you will.
I feel you.
But all that being said, I'm still a damn total nut for great tone and sound, and I'm a student of it. That telly, this Franken telly that I've got with the Spretzel tuners, Warmoth neck, the hip shot bridge, and the Lust for Tone pickups. It's just a workhorse, and it does the right thing. It's a little tone bucket.
I love it. A tone bucket.
Honks and,
that's great.
Yeah.
Where's it go from there? So what's your pedal board look like?
Well, sure. So on my pedal board, I'm sitting here looking at it right now. I've got one of the exotic SP compressors early on. Then that I jump directly into my Greer stuff. I got the Special Request as the second in line. The Lightspeed is the third in line. Then I've got a couple mod things. I use I use the MXR Phase 95. I use it set on the light setting as the light Phase 45. And then I've got an MXR carbon copy for long delay. I've got a Greer Black Tiger for short delay and slapback, and then I've got a super trim, and I run, as of right now, I'm running a Rotovibe, the red Rotovibe pedal. Nick Greer is currently building and designing and building a pedal for me to replace that Rotovibe.
Oh, Nick, my boy.
Yes. Super excited about that.
That is exciting.
So yeah, I have more pedals than I probably should. But,
I mean, we don't want to get into that because then I'd have to admit that I might have a pedal addiction, and I don't want to admit that because I can quit anytime whenever I want.
Yeah, so good, yeah. Hell no, we're cursed. We're cursed.
I'm so mad. I'm just sitting here looking to my right at the mess of nonsense that is over there.
Hey, man, can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
I've got a friend who is really super interesting cat. I mean, really cool to rap with. And he's a super cool guitar player. And he's got one of the smartest, coolest collections of guitars, pedals, and amps going on in Nashville that I know of.
Ooh.
And I did a 7-inch single with him. You might even know him as a famous chef. He's the chef that took Anthony Bourdain to Waffle House when he came to Nashville. Sean Brock.
Oh yeah, I do know that guy. Well, I know
Yeah,
of
man.
that guy. I don't know him personally.
Man, I, get a hold of him, Blake. I'm not kidding you, man. He is brilliant, and he's the one that went off in that territory. We wrote 2 songs, and we pressed a 7-inch single. We turned out we have a mutual tattooist in common that tattooed us both back in Athens, Georgia. And we wrote a memorial song about our tattooist pal, and then we wrote the obligatory food song called Soul Food Cooking, and it's just all a vehicle for us to play, harmony guitars, rock and roll. We're just totally geeked out on the guitar.
I love that,
and I think the songs, yeah, totally. So, anyways, I think you will. I totally think you would dig. He plays he plays the most incredible guitar I've personally touched in the past 10 years is Sean Brock's Novo guitar.
Oh, the Novos.
Which Novo,
yeah.
Oh my, Blake, it's unbelievable. The only other guitar that I've personally touched and felt that compared with this Novo guitar of Sean's is Dean DeLeo let me play his the red Strat that he's got. I think it's a 59 Strat that was Jimmy Page's Strat.
Wow.
That guitar feels like an artifact. It almost doesn't even feel like a real guitar. It's like it's got this sort of weird toy quality to it. But then when you plug it in and you hear the sound that it makes, it's just mind blowing.
That's insane. That's so crazy. I hope one day
that Novo of Sean's. Yeah.
Oh well, yeah, Dennis Fano.
Yeah, I'm just saying
you can't go wrong with.
Yeah, I'm just saying that those 2 guitars. There's something uncannily similar between that antique, the old 59 Strat. That's what I'm saying is those Nova guitars instantly feel like it's got this other quality that no other guitars that I've ever touched have.
Yeah.
Other than those old vintage ones,
That's amazing. It's amazing.
Man, look Sean up. I think you totally get a kick out of talking to him, and he's really super generous and cool with his knowledge, and I think you would just love talking with him.
I think I would too. He sounds like my kind of guy. Plus, he's a chef. And as many listeners of this show know, if there's one thing that I like more than guitar gear, it's food.
Well, let me go ahead and drop it. If we're going to go down that rabbit hole, I'm going to go ahead and start bragging.
Okay, well, before we do that, we gotta finish off with your amp. What kind of amps are you running?
Okay. Well, my amp I've been running for the past 5 years and made these records with is a Southern California. It's made in San Luis Obispo. It's called Kragar, Kragar amplification. Craig Bennett is a court reporter out in San Luis Obispo, and he builds these really beautiful, immaculate military grade vacuum tube amps. This one that I play is basically a Princeton circuit.
Okay.
It's got a mid boost. I've got 2 knobs. I've got a tone knob and a level, and then I've got one toggle switch, which is 2 toggle switches, which are basically little gain stage boost type switches. And then I also, at the past few months, I've been playing a Tyler a bunch, and it's basically a Tweed Deluxe type of circuit. And it, both of them, that's a combo. The little the first amp that I was discussing, that's a little head and a 112 cab.
Okay. That was going to be my next
I've
question.
gone Nashville as yeah, I've gone Nashville as hell, Blake. I'm so damn Nashville with this low gain, pedal board and these 20-watt amps. Like it's the smartest. It's just the smartest way, I think. Like it's really, it's low vol. I grew up playing Mesa Boogie, 50-watt amps.
Mm-hmm.
With 412s. That's how at 16 years old, I had 412.
Oh, nice.
You know what I mean? Like, and now I'm playing these little 17-watt combos that I'm, that's where I'm at.
I mean, I can relate to that. I play fairly low wattage stuff. A lot of my stuff, I primarily play Bensons, but
Cool.
the biggest one that I have is a 30 watter.
Right.
I got them from 1 watt to 15 to 30, and then I've got a PV Windsor that's like a 50 watt. I think it's a 50 watt. It might be 100 watt.
Is that the old PV tube amp? Is that the old is the Windsor the old tube?
It's their version of a I think if I remember correctly, it's their version of like a JCM 800 basically.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Oh, cool.
It's
cool.
cheap. They're like, if you can find one, they're cheap. They're like $250, $300, and they sound awesome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They're not
awesome.
super reliable, but they sound great.
Kind of cool.
But anyway, before we get, but we could go all over the place. But I feel like this is a good point in which I asked a very classic Tone Mob question, and this is one that people sometimes have a hard time with. And it can make or break a career, to be perfectly honest. So, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
So no pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure.
What kind of pizza do you like?
What kind of pizza do I like?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, man, I love pepperoni pizza. I'm a simple cat, man. I really I'm a simple cat. I mean, I like some complex stuff, but like. After we get off this call, I'm one or two things. I'm either going to Little 5 Points Pizza to get a pepperoni slice, or I'm going to the taco truck to get a couple of tacos.
All right, so you're going to go to 5 Points. That's a good pizza. And if you're going to go to tacos, I'm assuming you might be going to possibly Moss Tacos there in Nashville, right?
If I'm smart, that's what I would be doing.
That's right. Oh, man. I do love Nashville, and I love the Nashville food scene. It's very similar to the Portland food scene. So...
I'm totally looking forward to coming out and hanging in Portland. I haven't yet had a proper hang in Portland.
Well, you got to fix that up. We'd love to have you here for sure.
Man, thank you. I'm going to take you up on that.
But just a good slice of pepperoni from 5 Points. That is hard to argue with. I really like 5 Points down there. I've only been there once, but I really enjoyed eating there when I was there.
Yeah. No, it's cool. That's cool for sure.
Awesome.
I've totally enjoyed rapping with you. The gear thing, I am passionate about that stuff. I mean, like Nick Greer and the level of detail and the care, like it's all part of my own. Like from the making of these records, which Noah Shane and I, who've been working together since 2005. When I got the call in 2015 and he told me, hey, Boo, I've acquired the tape machine from Quonset Hut Studio in Nashville that recorded Dylan's Nashville Skyline. I've got it dialed in and it's awesome.
Whoa.
Come make a record with me.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how the Sea of Lights record went down. That was that record. And we recorded that record with that all-star band of dear close personal friends, Steve Ferroni on drums, and Paul Ill on bass. Noah and I, as we were tracking that record, we were like, dude, have we just assembled possibly the baddest rhythm section on the planet? I mean, Steve Ferroni and Paul Ill, my God. So anyways, during that process, Noah said, hey, I love what we're doing on this Sea of Lights record. But there's something that I want you to do. He said, I want you to go back to East Nashville and dig in with your band, with your live band, and make the playing that you guys are doing so important that I can't come over the top as a producer and hire an all-star band, that I got to use your guys because it's so important what you guys are doing. He said, go, and then let's do the next record after you have gotten that work done. So we went out and toured on Sea of Lights. We did the whole West Coast, came back across the country, did the whole Eastern Seaboard. I don't know, played 100 dates or something like that in a few months. And we landed back in Nashville, went straight in the studio and recorded this new album.
Oh, man. That's really cool. And this new album is like what you're talking about in the beginning, all just live, cut, right to tape, doing it, right?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That's it. Down and dirty.
That's so awesome. I love hearing that. Do you guys, here's a random question, and this is entirely kind of self-serving. Yeah. Do you guys have the drummer play to a click or no?
Not on Tennessee Alabama Fireworks. There's not one click on the whole record.
That's cool. I have a weird relationship with click tracks where I do understand how they are helpful, especially in in like post-production and stuff, obviously. But they drive me insane. Like I can't play to them. I've tried, and maybe it's a practice thing, but like I can play to a drummer, even if the drummer's playing to a click, that's okay. I can play with that. But the clicks themselves make me insane.
No, I get you. No, I get you, and so as you know, I play with some burning guitar players, like Saul Philcox, who was the lead guitar player on the Sea of Lights record. You guys know about Saul Philcox, probably. He's the Brent Mason protege,
right?
That came over from England at 17 and went straight on tour with big mainstream country acts. So Saul made Sea of Lights with me, and he played second guitar on the new album too. He played a couple leads too, but he mostly was playing the second lead. And so what I have, playing with these cats like that for me first of all, I got to play all the time and practice all the time just to play damn rhythm guitar in my own band. It's incredible being in Nashville. Coming to Nashville as a guitar player is a unique, singular, unique experience. It's a weird thing. It's interesting.
I mean, it's got to be one of the more difficult things you could do. Like in a town where everyone plays guitar and the guy begging your groceries is probably better than you, like standing out as a guitar player has got to be insanely difficult.
Here's what if you're a guitar player and you come to Nashville and it doesn't pretty quickly sort of hurt your feelings real bad, you're not paying attention. You're just not you're just not picking up all the information. And so, but the deal is you have to survive that and then dig in and grow as a player. And then, for me, the thing is like going on and learning how to be yourself in that environment.
Okay.
And so I have fully accepted that I'm the Keith Richards of my own band. Like I'm the screwball, in my own band, and surrounded by a bunch of hot pickers. But it's this certain thing. What Noah said, the directive that he gave me, he's like, look, man, I want this band centered around your weird idiosyncratic guitar playing, in the same way that J.J. Cale's bands are centered around his weird idiosyncratic guitar playing. So it's been an incredible experience. I'm constantly outmatched in my own band, constantly, always. And but it's a conversation that we're having, and it's not, it's a conversation and an experience. So it's okay to be outmatched. I've settled down into into the role of being the Keith Richards in the mix in my own band. Yeah.
It's almost about more like knowing who you are, getting as good as you can, but then just accepting and finding your place in kind of the musical landscape, basically.
Totally, 100%.
Well, we're getting down to the last few here, and I want to ask you a question, or give you a chance, really, to to kind of say something. If you could, put a billboard up on the side of the road and have thousands of people read it, what if you just had a little thing you wanted to tell everybody right now, what would that be?
Right. The world is difficult right now. You're not crazy. Be patient. Be kind. I would have a billboard that said like that, or maybe and who knows what kind of message is most effective, but maybe that's of the variety that is. If we were to try a different style, maybe the billboard would say, "Hey, we're riding on a dust ball flying through space, bound for oblivion. It's all good." Like, we're cool.
Yeah. I think either of those will work.
Yeah.
That's true.
You can. Yeah. Hell, I don't know. Yeah.
Do any of us know? No, nobody really knows.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. This has been a really enjoyable chat. I feel like my prediction in the beginning came true. This was really good. So thank you very much for that.
Man, thank you, Blake. I've totally enjoyed hanging and rapping with you.
This is great. This is great stuff. But I think I'll go ahead and wrap this thing up. So for Boo, this is Blake, and as always, folks, good luck and good tones. Thank you so much for tuning into that, everybody. This one was a bit of a bear to get out. My computer was crashing all over the place during the editing process, which is always super annoying, but, we soldiered through, we got it done. So we're in the final stretch. And if you need some more of that conversation, you can go to patreon.com/tonemob. For just $5 a month, you get extra episodes every week. And, if you listen this far, something tells me you got something out of it. If not, I don't know why you would do that to yourself. Why would you do that to yourself? That's awful. But yeah, you can go there and subscribe at some different levels. It helps support the show. And also, you get extra content every week. Yes, every week. I almost said every month. It's a lot more often than that. Every week, there are extra episodes. So make sure you check that out, and make sure you check out Boo-Ray's stuff at booraymusic.com or on all the Spotify streaming whatevers. You can find it all over the place. It's all over there. And make sure you hit up our sponsors, because they make this whole thing possible. We've got some good longtime sponsors that have been with us for years at this point, and they really help keep the lights on, so to speak, or the speakers on, or microphones, that makes more sense. All right, and if you need to get a hold of me, info@tonemob.com, or the contact form on the website, message me on any of the socials, hit me up. I'm available, and you can join the Facebook group if you haven't done that. We're in there. We're still nerding out on all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, I guess that's all. And until next week, or next time, I think I might have one sooner than that. If everything aligns, we'll have one sooner than that. So, anyway, thank you very much, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye. One last thing before we totally sign off here, I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.